What was it again? Then right now it's the 21st century, right?
Yeah.
So the 1900s is the 20th century. That math is boggling my mind. With a little light digging, you'll find out that the A-11 is one of the most iconic watches of the 20th century. However, will you be willing to wear one at 32 millimeters? Praesidus has a proposition for you. This video is brought to you by Praesidus. Hit the link in the description to get the VIP access to the A-11 Origin. Praesidus prides itself in supporting Army veterans with their projects. The brand honors them by designing their watches feel and form after the original military-issued units. They're really serious about it this time because, if you haven't noticed yet, this is just 32 millimeters. On my 6 1/4 inch wrist, the A-11 Origin looks really small but not microscopic like how I envisioned it to be. Those long and narrow lugs help a little to elongate the perception. If you prefer the more contemporary size, the A-11 is also available now at 38 and 40 mm variants. It has been well documented how vintage sizing, a couple of decades ago, were around the 36 to 40 mm in range. This latest iteration travels a few more years back to when women's wristlets inspired watchmakers to use small pocket watch movements on wrist straps. From there, the cases grew with the tastes of men who wore them. While the sizing time-traveled without a DeLorean, the materials used are as space-age as Doc Brown may put it. Praesidus used modern durable canvas material for the strap, AR-coated acrylic crystal, and sandblasted stainless steel. So the watch may look old-timey, but it's built to last longer. Looking into the dimensions of this watch is a real-life exploration of a century's worth of design. It has a 32 mm diameter across the dial without the crown. The lug-to-lug distance is 38 mm, a span most dials alone are bigger nowadays. And something else that's really rare is the 16 mm lug width. You can still find straps for these with a little searching. The A-11 Origin is as authentic as can be in this area of the form. From the side, we start seeing a glimpse of advancement as this has 10.2 mm of thickness and a 50-meter water resistance. These are specs well above what the military would require back in the 1940s. Inside the watch is the most modern part of the timepiece with a high accuracy Ronda 763 quartz movement. This ensures that the watch will continue to beat for a long while without breaking the bank with unruly servicing and obsolete parts. Personally, I have dabbled in watches of all ages and sizes. The closest watch I have to the A-11 Origin is this 1960s Omega Genève. Age notwithstanding, the proportions are pretty close despite the decades gap between the two. Like these Omega Genèves, the A-11 will have the same vintage charm, especially with that acrylic crystal. Placing it beside a modern sub, it couldn't be more different. The proportions have grown significantly. The finishing is a little more varied with brush, polish, and gloss highlighting the sub. This is a sharp contrast against the sandblasted Origin. Now for a taste of the preposterous. Let's bring it side by side against my Paddy Tuna. Remember we mentioned this is small enough to be the dial of some watches? Well, here you go. I'm pretty confident I can wear both given the right situation and attire. That, however, feels more like a challenge than a proclamation of my style. This watch deserves more than looking for a way to wear it. It may be simple to the eye, there's still a few details we can find upon closer examination. I like how the designer applied a large and deep polish over the lug area, breaking up the monotony of the sandblasted case. There's also drilled lug holes that adds to its utilitarian feel. The back of this case has multiple grooves for varying case openers, and that gorgeous circular finish provides a pleasing backdrop to the engraved text. The A-11 dial is a faithful recreation of US Army issued watches that were called, the A-11. The inner numerals have large Arabic prints, while the outer portion have the seconds scale. Up close, the texture on the dial provides a character that feels raw and associative of vintage watches. The lume, however, is very bright and a clear upgrade. These are not the faux patina variety either. The brand went to great lengths to ensure that this watch performs to modern standards and yet retains the spirit of the original A-11. The A-11 was the officially issued watch for the soldiers back in the 1940s, which is not a watch model at all, really, but a standard. This was contracted to the US Army to Elgin, Bulova, and Waltham, which were given certain liberties on the design, so long as they kept the A-11 standard. So, despite varying case and movements, the A-11 identity remained the same. This is what Praesidus is trying to revive. This is arguably the main selling point of this watch. Not its size, not its features, it's the story. This watch keeps the story of the A-11 alive for future enthusiasts to enjoy and honors the veterans that wore them by donating part of the proceeds to war veteran associations and communities. A fitting salute for the brave that helped shape our history. Isn't that something to bring home to for under $200? It's a noble watch, it preserves the history of the A-11, and each sale helps the veteran community. It may be a little too small for me, even though I've worn smaller watches, but my wife loves it, so there's an appeal to a certain crowd out there. Nevertheless, at just a fraction of microbrand prices, this is a small price to pay for a part of history. You know, the bands, these bands, 16 millimeters, are really hard to get. I've been looking at Amazon and there's none that really fits this. A leather one would be awesome. How many takes did I take? 4? This time. 4, 5, maybe. Let's do it again.